I moved my life savings to a new account at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. By noon, my daughter was standing on my porch, screaming at the top of her lungs like I'd personally robbed her of her future. The decision felt almost too quiet to matter at first. I stood at my kitchen counter, rinsing a ceramic mug I hadn't even finished, listening to the house settle the way it always did after dawn. No arguments. No raised voices. Just a choice I had been circling for weeks, like a ghost in my own hallways, until I finally found the courage to step into it. My name is Marabel Rowan. I am 63 years old. I did not wake up that morning planning to cut anyone off. I didn't rehearse a big speech in my head. I simply got dressed, grabbed my purse, and drove to the credit union I had been using since before my daughter was even born. The teller, Carla, recognized me immediately. She'd been there long enough to remember when my husband, Henry, used to stand by the door waiting for me. She asked how I was, and I said fine. I said fine because that was easier than explaining the low, steady unease that had been following me around lately. I told her I wanted a new account. In my name only. No joint access. No authorized users. Are you sure, Marabel? She asked softly. I've never been sure of anything else in my life, I replied. My hand shook on the first line of the forms, but by the second signature, it was steady. I moved every single dollar. Every cent of decades of hard work moved with a few clicks of a keyboard. On the drive home, I waited for the guilt to arrive. I expected to feel like a traitor. But it never came. What I felt instead was a thin line of relief, the kind that doesn't celebrate but holds you upright. 𝗚liche didn't take over all at once. It started with excuses that sounded so reasonable, you'd feel like a villain for questioning them. I'm just tired of driving back and forth. Mom, she said one afternoon, dropping her bags by the door like she already owned the place. It'd be easier if I stayed nearby. I worry about you. Back then, worry felt like love. I smiled. I welcomed the company. But the help was small, almost too small to argue with. Let me pay the electric bill online, she said, snatching my laptop before I could even answer. It's faster. You're always mailing things, Mom. Nobody does that anymore. She laughed, light and easy, making my habits feel like ancient, embarrassing relics. Then the questions started happening over dinner. How much do you usually keep in checking? Enough, I'd say. That's not a number, Mom. You should consolidate everything. It's cleaner. Less stress for you. I told her I wasn't stressed. She just tilted her head and said, you don't have to be stressed to need help. That was the first time the word need slipped in. And once it was in, it never left. Soon, my mail stopped landing on the table unopened. 𝗚liche sorted it before I ever saw it. I already took care of that, she'd say. I didn't think you'd want to deal with the headache. She framed everything as a favor. If I hesitated, she'd sigh, a long, dramatic sound. I'm trying to make things easier for you, Mom. You raised me to take responsibility, didn't you? Responsibility sounded noble. It sounded like something I should be grateful for. But when I asked for my bank statements, she'd frown. Why do you want those? Nothing's wrong. You trust me, right? The shift didn't come with shouting. It came with convenience. One evening, I reached for my debit card and it wasn't there. It's in my wallet, she said casually. You keep misplacing it, so I'm keeping it safe. I'm just helping. That was when helping stopped sounding temporary. It started sounding like a life sentence. A few weeks ago, I mentioned wanting a new winter coat. You don't need one, 𝗚liche said without looking up from her phone. You barely go anywhere. We should be practical with the budget. The word slipped in where I used to be. Then I saw a charge I didn't recognize. A large one. When I asked about it, she sighed. That was for household stuff. You don't remember? We talked about this, Mom. The pause after that question stretched for an eternity. I felt heat rise in my face. Not because I was confused, but because she had made confusion the default explanation for everything. I stopped asking questions, not because I believed her, but because every time I did, I became the problem. I became the difficult mother who was losing her edge. When the car pulled up at 3 p.m., the tires hit the curb hard. 𝗚liche slammed the door and didn't even make it to the front step before she started. Are you out of your mind? Her voice echoed down the street. The bank called me to confirm the transfer. You moved the money without saying a word to me. I stood in the doorway, my hands gripped behind my back. It's my money, 𝗚liche. That affects my life, she screamed. I've been the one managing everything. I've been keeping your life straight because you get confused. I am not confused, I said, my voice low and steady. I'm acting like a woman who wants her name back on her own life. I trusted you with everything, and you used that trust to make me disappear. She looked startled. She hadn't expected me to speak the truth out loud. You're being irrational, she whispered, trying to sound like the reasonable one. This isn't like you. No, I replied. This is exactly like me. You just haven't been listening for a very long time. The shouting eventually burned itself out. What was left was a heavy, hollow silence. 𝗚liche realized the access she'd grown used to was gone. Forever. I was counting on that money, she finally admitted, her voice small. And I was counting on being safe. I told her. She left that afternoon, her tires spinning as she pulled away. She texted me later that night, I need space. I texted back, so do I. I didn't change the locks, but I did change the atmosphere. I went back to the bank and confirmed I was the only one with the keys to my future. Carla smiled at me, a real, knowing smile. You're all set, Marabel. Only you. I didn't move my savings to punish my daughter. I moved them because I realized I was becoming afraid of my own child. I was measuring my words and asking for permission to exist comfortably in the house I paid for. There is a lesson here: love should never come with conditions you're afraid to name. And boundaries? They aren't an act of war. They are an act of self-preservation. I didn't lose my family that day. I just found my footing again.